So I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here today in studio with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
It's going well, my friend. It's going well. Thank you for asking.
So I just had a surprise for the day. So in order to stream to Twitter, you have to be a premium account now. So they just changed that. That was the first time I've seen
Oh,
that
isn't
in the
isn't that
settings. So
interesting? Okay, well, I'm looking
yeah,
for.
so
Yeah,
we yeah, that's going to cut down on our live viewers by quite a bit, but that's okay because that's where most of our audience comes from. But and I may change that. So, anyways, today we got quite a few topics. We're going to talk about Walmart and what they're doing with hydrogen trucks. We're going to talk. We're going to bring up what's going on with a little bit of what's going on with Rivian right now. We're going to talk about electric vehicle breakdowns. This is coming from
this is
the
coming
Automotive
from the
Association of the
yeah,
UK.
of the UK. Yeah.
A little bit more about Jim Farley, a little discussion about tariffs. We're going to have a discussion about a Chevy dealership doing EVs the right way down in Texas. Let's see, I'm going to bring up the deal for the 2025 Chevy Equinox. Talk about the which way EV sales are going. And
You got a long list there, my friend. I only
I
gave you
do.
three.
Yeah, I know. I had a few already picked out. 8 electric vehicles that may last you twice as long as the average car.
Yeah.
And we wanted to talk about what F-150 owners are doing. So, anyways, let's start out just real quick. But before we do, I was going to say we just hit 1,000 subscribers a week or so ago, and we're coming up in 4 days. We will have been doing this YouTube channel for a year. Now, you had done a YouTube channel in the past.
Oh, yeah, years
Yeah,
ago, years ago.
yeah, and we're doing a lot more. We're releasing about a video a day, or better.
Yeah.
And so we're doing a little bit more content than you were doing back then, but still,
Well, I
it's
was a
a
one-man
channel.
band back then. Now there's a three-man band.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, well, we've got a lot more opportunity to create regular content,
Right.
and so that goes a long ways. Anyways, so first off, I wanted to talk about we were just before we came on the show, we were talking about this deal where apparently Walmart Canada is debuting a Nikola hydrogen truck.
Hmm.
Now, let's see, Nikola, the retailer says they want to be 100% alternatively powered by 2028. Now, that's pretty soon. Now,
Yeah.
one
Well,
thing that's kind of unique. So, Bill, you and I neither of us are real big hydrogen proponents. Okay, we both see some issues. It's not the most. I've seen, the theory. It's like hydrogen is not really a fuel. It's a carrier of fuel.
right. It's something that you use instead of a battery. You use hydrogen molecules to store energy. That's basically what it is. So,
Yeah, so it's essentially hydrogen's more of a different style of battery than it
hmm
is
yep.
a true fuel. But in, you know,
But
we've
it is
seen
cool
things where with all these,
technology.
yeah, it is. No, there's no question. There's no question. And if they can get the price down, maybe it makes sense. And we've mentioned before that hydrogen makes sense in long haul trucking. The problem is, much like what we've gone through with EVs. So EVs had a slight advantage. You could always plug your EV into a 110 socket.
Hmm.
Okay, you've always had that ability to do. And so you didn't necessarily, people always think, oh, I need chargers or whatever. Well, it's like, you need superchargers, you need faster chargers, superchargers, level 2 and 3 and stuff like that, really, if you're going to be doing any real
Any distance traveling. Yeah.
distance traveling. Well,
Yeah.
long haul truckers drive,
That's all they do.
yeah, they drive 500 miles a day, and that's they're
Sleep in their
continuously going.
cab. Sleep in their cab and
Well,
sit.
I don't know the rules anymore, but it used to be you could drive for 5 hours, then you had to take a mandatory break for a few hours, and then you could drive another. I think you had to take 5, and then you could drive 5 more. But you were always stopping after those 5, generally at a truck stop,
Hmm.
and you were fueling and
Getting
taking your
something to
break.
eat. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe that's where you get take your shower in the morning or, whatever.
Some of those truck stops even have gyms in them, you
Yeah.
know. So there's opportunities there. But I'm just saying it's interesting because EVs didn't really address, and we've talked about this before, it doesn't really address towing anything, because towing is a huge drain on electric
Yeah, it
vehicles.
takes a lot of batteries to do all
It's
that.
the real weakness. It's the real weakness in the EV industry is towing. So anyways, Nikola has been at the forefront of the hydrogen push. But the one thing that's unique is Walmart has thousands of stores. I think there's 4,000 Walmart stores just in the United States. And I don't know how many there are in Canada. I would imagine there's got to be probably 1,000, well, let's just say there's at least 500 Walmarts just in Canada. I don't know exactly what the number is, but if you had a hydrogen fueling station at every Walmart, that would bring people to shop at Walmart that had hydrogen vehicles, and it would also, make it so that Walmart could service a fleet of trucks delivering their stuff from state to state if all they were doing was fueling the hydrogen trucks at other Walmarts.
Right.
So there could be, some move there. But anyways, Walmart Canada debuted its trucking fleet's first hydrogen fuel cell powered electric tractor from Nikola, the first of many it plans to acquire. The investment coincides with a $3.5 billion growth plan designed to drive sales and accelerate deliveries to its 400 plus store Canadian network using green tech. Well, it was close, 400 plus. Walmart Canada aims to convert more than 400 trucks into a 100% alternatively powered fleet by 2028, with its goal to embrace new tech and spark change within the industry. Well, that's, kind of, that's a cool idea.
And speaking of commercial logistics and delivery, how many Rivian delivery vans does Amazon have right now? They're just celebrating. They just released this information.
I'm thinking about 18,000.
No, 10,000. They have more than 10,000.
10,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
10,000. Yeah.
I was thinking they put out more because they have 17,000 chargers.
Well, the article coming out, said that they have plus 10,000. So obviously it could be greater than 10,000, but you would normally think, well, if they have 18, that's like 18, but it's 10,000. Still not bad. I mean, we see them around here all the time now, which is exciting.
Yeah. Oh, here's some other news on this topic. So the Nikola hydrogen truck has an estimated range of about 500 miles, nearly double the driving range of Walmart's Freightliner E-Cascadia electric trucks.
Electric one, yeah.
And those have a range of under 250 miles. However, since the Tesla Semi has an electric range of 500 miles towing, the Walmart has ordered 130 tractors from Tesla. So
well,
I didn't even know they'd done that.
It's market availability and also just hedging their bet, so to speak. I mean, obviously, are they going to build their own hydrogen, fueling station, which basically means we're going to put some big compressed tanks, and some things, surrounded by a chain link fence, and we make access available to our tractors when they come in they park the trailer, and when they come in, to offload, then they take the tractor and go over, and fuel it. I mean, I've been around that. I've seen them. I know what they are. Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to build their own, or are they just simply going to, go to Air Liquide and say, hey, Air Liquide, come in daily and, fill our tank here. And so I think they have to, there's cost associated with that, as opposed to putting in a fast charger that is capable of, doing a tractor in, a few minutes. So.
In a lot of your more rural locations or smaller towns that have a Walmart, the Murphy gas station that sits at the front of the Walmart parking lot is generally the cheapest gas in those cities. So Murphy is super competitive on gas. I'm just making an assumption here. Okay, they probably don't use Murphy in Canada, but what I'm getting at is I assume that those will then have hydrogen, as well. I mean, that would be the logical choice, because if they're going to do something with the trucks, it makes sense to at the same time make it another revenue stream for the
Right.
Walmarts.
Now there aren't,
Um,
you know, the only car makers at the moment that are producing hydrogen vehicles, of course, is Toyota. I think they're still making the Mira.
they are.
But I just learned today that Honda has begun in Ohio, has begun manufacturing a hydrogen fuel cell CRV,
Right.
which
Yeah.
spreads that
They're the other one.
a little further. So,
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't, people are always like, well, hydrogen's going to do this and do that. It's like, I personally don't see it as
no,
EVs have too big of an advantage in the fun factor of driving the car. I
yeah.
think that is,
And the
and
thing is,
hydrogen's the opposite.
EVs give you as long as you got power, you know, to your house, EV gives you the
Yeah.
ability to fuel at home, right? Just it's no time out. You walk in, let people say, how long does it take you to charge your electric car? Oh, let's see, what's it take me to reach over off the shelf, pull the plug, and put it in the car? That's how long it takes me to charge my car, right? It's just
Right.
seconds, literally, because the rest of the time the car is doing what every car in the country does: sit there. Except
Yeah.
mine doesn't evaporate fuel, you know. Mine takes and puts a charge, you know, in the battery. So that's not an issue. So for passenger cars, you know, for like you say, for you know, over the road vehicles, even maybe even heavy equipment, although we're seeing more shift over again to batteries than we are seeing that technology being applied to, you know, backhoes and things like that. Ships, obviously, although what we're seeing there is people experimenting with, there's a tanker that just left port somewhere in Southeast Asia running on methanol. And there's
Oh,
work exploration being done using ammonia instead of diesel in these cargo ships. So there's, you know, work being done there. Some of that could be done with hydrogen, although hydrogen can be burned in a combustion, you know, vehicle, a combustion engine, but it's much more efficiently done so with less environmental cost if you can run it through a fuel cell stack. So I think that's what, like, Nicola's been looking at. That's, you know, although Nicola's hedging their bets because they have a battery version you can order, or you have the fuel cell version you can order. So I think it's just sort of specific to the mission and situation of whoever the fleet operator is going to be. But aircraft, there's work being done. The let's see, who was it? I want to say Joby just completed their 500-mile flight, and that thing was it's an electric VTOL, did 523 miles, and it was done with a hydrogen fuel cell range extender, if you will. Again, a serial.
okay.
So the fuel cell, the hydrogen is feeding the fuel cell is generating electricity, and that's feeding the battery, which then, of course, is feeding the 6 or 8, whatever it is, propellers that are, you know, pulling the thing through the air. So
I assume hydrogen burns off the same way that fuel does in an aircraft, lightening up the load as you fly too.
yeah, you would. Yeah, there would be some. Yeah, the further you fly, the lighter it gets. Now, when that happens, the higher you can fly. I remember coming
Right.
back from Tokyo, from the Tokyo Auto Show, and we were flying really, really low and in pretty turbulent weather for about the first hour, until they had burned off enough fuel, and they just kept climbing and climbing until we reached, you know, whatever their cruising altitude was, somewhere between
Right.
35 and 40,000 feet. But it took them a while to get there because they had to burn that fuel off. So hydrogen, I would assume, would be fairly similar to that.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about what happened. We had this Hurricane Beryl hit Houston,
Yep.
and Ford F-150 EV owners have been using their trucks as generators during the power outages. Now, this is something that's a big feature that a lot of people don't realize, that we have bidirectional charging built into some vehicles, or you can buy a bidirectional charger, you know, for charging it at your house. And in theory, when you have a power outage, you could power the house with your EV.
This is I brought this story up because my brother lives in Houston. He actually lives out in God, what is it? The Woodlands, I think, in the Woodlands, sort of
Okay.
northeast Houston area, and they were without power for over a week.
Mhm.
And he just got power restored over the weekend. And the one comment that he made, fortunately, they had family members that did have, and he wasn't really clear whether the family member was running the generator or they still had power, but I'm assuming the family member had a generator. And he says all you could hear through the neighborhood was the rattle of, everybody running those generators. Yeah. And of course, and I said to him, well, maybe you ought to think about getting a Ford F-150 Lightning. And of course, he not a big fan of that, having worked in the aviation industry most of his adult life. Electric he doesn't see as a niche for his particular lifestyle, which is fine. That's but he did say that all they could hear constantly through the night was this constant hum of all of these generators running. So the Ford F1. And what's interesting, the article that brings this up says it'll be interesting to see what the Beryl situation and the aftermath, what that'll translate into. Maybe folks going out and taking another look at the Lightning. But also what's interesting, I didn't realize this, is that Ford's just gas-powered vehicles, gasoline-powered vehicles, have the ability to have that same, what they call Pro Power package.
Pro Power on board, yeah.
Yeah, Pro Power on board. So you could actually run the gasoline engine, to power the generator to, give you the power that you need. Although, all you're doing basically there, you're getting electricity, but you're getting it fairly expensively and with a lot of, pollutants and contaminants as a result,
right.
as well as noise.
So anyways, let's just talk real quick. And we haven't discussed stocks for a little bit. So Rivian Automotive is, it's only up like about 2% today. It's sitting at $17.83. Now it was at $8.
Yeah, it was at $8
2 months ago.
I bought it at 10.
Yeah.
And of course, then it went down to 8, and I thought, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a happy capper right now. Although, to be honest, I have literally probably, I can count all the shares that I own on one hand. I don't have that many. So it's not like I'm, an investment tycoon here making all kinds of money on this deal. But yes, I'm happy to see that, because that speaks well, hopefully, for the future of the company and the technology.
Yeah, well, in light of the assassination attempt over the weekend, we've seen the financial markets all rise. And there's been just a lot of news that's caused stocks and crypto to everything's going up.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's good to see that. Anyways, it's just, you just never know where Rivian is going to go. I think, the whole thing with Volkswagen was really, we kept saying Ford should do that. And here Volkswagen jumped in bed with them, which is a really good sign. Anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. Let's see. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the UK with electric vehicle breakdowns. So this AA really organization.
Right. The Automobile Association of the UK. Right.
So what is it? So of all EV related requests for service in the UK, 1.4% were due to the batteries having limited or no charge. And it's been going down. It was comparatively, it was 4.6% in 2019.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, so it's gone down by about 70%.
And when it
5 years.
Yeah, and when it hits 1%, that'll be the same number of gasoline, petrol, as the British would say, petrol or diesel vehicles that they have to go out and help in the UK that run out of fuel.
Oh yeah. So the figure, that's 1% is the figure in the UK for petrol or diesel.
So they're not that far off. And of course, the authors of the article attribute to the fact, or I guess assuming it's the AA, that the primary reason is that you got better educated buyers. You have cars that have more, longer range. You have a more reliable charging network. And I think there was a fourth one there. It just slips my mind right now. But the improvements have translated into fewer people running out of energy, their batteries being drained while they're out on the road somewhere. It's getting close within spitting distance, I guess I could say, of the same rate of people that are running out of petrol in their cars in the UK.
When you were traveling, I did an interview with the CEO of Skill Fusion, and he's a UK gentleman, and he was talking about a little bit, but he lives in California. Oh, by the way, he also owned an EV1. So he's been in EVs for a long time. He has a couple now.
He's been a long time.
Yeah, from the 90s. Yeah. So anyways, he was kidding us like, I hope someday I'll see other EVs driving down the road. And now he drives an EQS, but he was saying, in California, they're everywhere now. But it's just really weird when you had the EV1. There was, nobody else had one, or nobody was driving.
Yeah, you were a celebrity if you had one of those. So
yeah. But anyways, he was talking about the goal is to get it so that every highway basically has a charger at least every 5 miles, and awesome. I think that's realistic. I mean, if you even look at the Tesla supercharging network going across Nebraska, I mean, there's quite a few supercharging points. You're not going to, I don't know that there's any real dead zones, at least in a Tesla, anywhere in in the United States. Now, there's been problems with some of the other networks. And the other networks, the problem hasn't necessarily been the lack of charging stations. It's been the lack of reliability. So that's made
there's a new company, Flow. Have you heard about them?
No.
In Michigan, they are just now releasing their 350 kilowatt chargers.
Nice.
And they're looking for a 98% percentage of time uptime availability for these chargers. So 350 kilowatt, that'll charge, I think, something like maybe 9 minutes. Your car can be charged. In the time it takes you to go to the bathroom and buy a Slurpee, you can come back and your car is charged, right? So we're getting there. Things are moving along at a fairly promising pace.
Yeah, there's a couple technologies out there for 5-minute charging, and it's going. There's more cars out there capable of taking that than we thought. Hyundai apparently was the leader, kind of, in getting into that space, and
it's interesting that
companies are jumping in.
Yeah, one of the articles that I think we're highlighting is the one about the 8 electric vehicles that will last you the longest, and the majority of those, there was a Tesla there was a Ford Mustang Mach-E there. I forget what the other one. I think there was a third one, but pretty much all the rest were either Hyundais or BMWs. So
So what have we got here? Let's see. The Model S, a 2024 Model S, and it's considered to be Tesla's most reliable car, which is interesting. I hear from people that have like 2013 and 2014 Model S's, and they're still chugging along strong. Yeah.
Well, my 2016 Fiat's just chugging right along.
Yep. Let me see. Lucid Air. Now this is interesting.
Yeah, Lucid Air. That was the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. $70,000. I didn't know they'd gotten them down that affordable.
Yeah.
Let me see, the Mach-E. Now this is interesting. It got pretty good. Now you see a lot of Mach-E's around Omaha now.
Oh yeah, now you do.
I've really noticed in the last couple months the number of EVs of different ones I'm seeing fairly often. Seeing lots of Mach-E's, lots of Nissan Arias.
I haven't seen those yet. I don't know. Of course, I don't get out that much. I go to Trader Joe's to shop, and that's
I've
that's
seen
about
at
the extent
least
of my trips on the road.
I've seen 2 different colors of red super trucks, or cyber trucks.
Right?
I've seen a couple black ones. I've seen one in gold. I've seen one that was red and black. So I've seen about 6 different wraps around
Oh,
Omaha, besides seeing the traditional stainless steel. I see more
right.
wrapped ones than I do the stainless steel. It seems like everybody pays for the wrap if they
Has
buy
any,
one
have
in
you,
Omaha.
you haven't seen any that have been polished up to blinding, shining, mirror
Not
finish,
yet.
have you?
Not yet. But
That I just, I do not understand why you would do that just from a concern of your fellow motorists on the road, right? You're driving down the road in a car that's polished to a mirror finish, you know.
I have enough problem with
Anyway,
glare as it is.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's getting to be a little much. But let me see. We got the Ford Mustang Mach E.
And then
The
we,
Okay, here we go. The
Kias
Kia
and
Niro.
Hyundai. Yeah.
Now this is interesting. 2024 MSRP $27,000.
Hmm.
That is really getting down there. People talking about, whether EVs are affordable or not.
Affordable enough. Yeah.
239-mile range at 70 miles per hour.
Yeah, I think is that the one I think that they one of the car rating companies rates that as the probably the car that gives you the most bang for the buck, if you will. So
Yeah. So the Porsche Taycan is rated number 2 out of 7 electric luxury cars by Consumer Reports, making it a serious competitor in the electric luxury automobile market. Let's see, what is it? It doesn't give much other information. The Kia EV6 is at 42.6.
the
You know,
BMW 4, yeah, i4.
well, I was going to say the Kia EV6 and the Ioniq 5 are very similar vehicles.
Hmm.
One of my friends has an EV6 and he said he didn't like the Ioniq, which I thought was kind of interesting because he tried both and got the EV6. But the BMW i4, not a vehicle too many people think of when they think of. I was looking at used plug-in hybrids, and
Right.
there's a BMW that has like a 12-mile range on the electric battery, and I'm just like, why?
Why
Why?
bother? Yeah, why
Yeah,
bother?
but still eligible for the $4,000. But I'm like, that is really not a whole lot of range.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, the i4 at 52.2. And these are considered to be cars that are going to last a long time. Now here's the Ioniq 6 came in first at 37.5. Top electric car, a rating of 83 out of 100. Has outstanding fast charging performance, useful for lengthy travels or people who want fasting charger alternatives. Bloomberg ranks it as the best EV for high mileage drivers due to its high mile range and low minutes to charge and
Yep.
price per mile
Yep.
numbers.
Yep.
I saw something.
And it's
Oh,
an
you had some.
attractive car. It really is.
Yeah, you had tagged some video about a Tesla taxi that had gone 430 miles on the first battery. So
430,000 miles.
yeah,
Yes.
430,000 miles. Yeah. And, that was pretty impressive. I wanted to briefly touch on, and we've mentioned this before a little bit, but there was an electric article about Jim Farley from Ford.
Yeah, I hadn't seen
And
this one.
yeah, it says, it calls out America's love for monster vehicles and
Oh,
the
yeah,
need
no,
for a
no, yeah,
smaller $30,000 EVs got
yeah.
coming. Of course, he drives an F-150 Lightning himself, but, you know, I
Yeah,
get
won't
it.
hold it against him.
Well, but what else does Ford offer? I
Well, yeah,
mean,
it's either that or the
he could drive
Mustang, and
that.
he's got a family. I'm
Yeah,
sure they're teenagers.
right. He might have a Mach E as well, for all we know. I'm
Oh,
just saying, there's not a lot of options. I mean, he could have an Expedition, a Navigator, something. He doesn't have a lot of options for what.
yeah, for electric, for coming from, yeah,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
primary cars, yeah.
Yeah, we're in love with these monster vehicles. And this has been a thing that people have said a lot about the United States is, part of our gas consumption is the fact we have such enormous vehicles.
Yeah,
And when people talk about how heavy EVs are, they're still not comparable to the big trucks and the
yeah,
big SUVs. So that makes it kind of interesting. Ford is planning to launch an EV for electric car for $30,000 in 2027. And according to Farley, it will be profitable for Ford to put this
yeah,
out into the public, which would be really good for them to actually have a profitable
yeah.
EV.
Be interesting to see. I would wager if I were a wagering man that it'll be built on the Volkswagen MEB platform.
Okay.
That's my guess.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about this article from the evangelist Buzz Smith down in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He is somebody I follow on LinkedIn, and he's talking about this. This is kind of cool. This is at Friendly Chevrolet in Dallas, the EV HQ charging park. So they
Hmm.
have a whole bunch of chargers. They're all under, um,
A
they've all
canopy.
got roofs. They're under a canopy. They even have a concierge there to help make sure you know how to properly use the EV
Yeah,
chargers.
good for them.
Yeah, and they have lounges. The charging park is open 24/7, and but when the dealership is open, there's even a little restaurant there, so
Now, do
people
they
can.
let non-Chevrolet GM vehicles in there, or are they
Oh yeah,
restricted to? Okay,
no, anybody can use it. It's not free. It's
right.
not free, but
Well,
it's
would not.
just that. Yeah. Oh, they even have a dog park attached to it.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a dog park, and they have access to food and restrooms and an indoor lounge. It's quite a bit.
Those guys are thinking ahead. I like that.
Yeah. So unlike all of the normal car dealerships who are trying to dissuade people from buying an EV because um, it takes more effort to sell an EV for the salesman than it does to sell a gas car.
Yeah.
So that I've seen that as one of the big arguments that's as to what's kind of going wrong.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I wanted to cover, and I've mentioned this car a little bit before, but this is significant. The 2025 Chevy Equinox. Now, the plan was
Mhm.
to have this released for 24, but it's gonna not. There's not going to actually be a 24 model. This is the 25. And it's not, it's sharp looking SUV.
Mhm.
Doesn't look like an EV. You're not going to realize it's an EV when it's going down the road. Um, doesn't look any different inside than a gas car. Just looks like a car, right?
Other than that, doesn't have a big radiator, hanging out there in the front.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, I get that, but so it's 319 miles of range
Really
and
good.
something called Power Boost. The base model will be eligible for the $7,500 tax credit. And let's see. So you're basically looking what at a price of $27,500 out the door.
Yeah.
So on the base model, that's going to be a really big deal to be able to get that. So that's people talk about EVs aren't affordable. I mean, I don't really know how big the Equinox is. It looks like a decent sized vehicle. Um,
It's probably more, it's around the size of my Prius. I've seen a few of them around. Yeah.
so it is small.
It's not it's not an Explorer, sort of
Is
size
it?
thing. It's a smaller. I would consider a smaller crossover or smaller SUV. Not,
Well, how is it compared to
it's
the
bigger
Bolt,
than
you
a
think?
Fiat, but it's
Bigger than a Bolt?
I'd say just a little bit bigger than a Bolt, a little bit.
Okay. Um, let's see what we've got here. Looks like they're gonna have lots of options on, what you can get for trim levels.
Which
220
of course,
horsepower, 300 horsepower.
which of course drives the price up above that 35,000. I'm sure.
Right, right. But let's see. It looks like the top end model is going to be
Yeah,
47,890. I mean, you're still only bringing that down to, with the tax credit, down to 40,000.
yeah.
Still, that's not. It's a lot more expensive there. That's a $13,000 upgrade. But the Equinox is one of the lowest priced EVs in the U.S. market. Mary Barra has also promised that it's not Chevy's lowest priced EV. The upcoming 26 Chevy Bolt will be the most affordable U.S. EV.
Yeah.
What? We're not going to have a 25 Chevy Bolt?
No, they had to push it back a little bit.
Oh God. Well, that's the nature of the car business, isn't
That's
it?
the
Push
nature of the car
everything keeps.
business. Yeah.
everything.
You got to allocate, you got to work with suppliers, and you got to take and, line up the, the resources to go in and readjust the assembly lines, and, all that takes time. And I'm sure that, they've got to have probably come with an Ultium battery pack. So they got to set all that up. And so, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time to put all this stuff together.
Bill, we constantly get the news that EV sales are dying. They've stopped. It's all gone away.
I'm ready to attend the funeral.
I know. And, here's an update on that. And it's horrible. EV sales set a record. This is for the US in the second quarter. And, but the news is that Tesla sales are down as a percentage of overall. So they'll spend that about the 49% market share, or 49.7% market share they have now, whereas they used to have about
the other
51.
cars that are really doing well.
But Americans bought a record 330,000 EVs in the second quarter of 2024, which was the highest quarter ever for EV sales in the United States.
EV sales are dying. Car companies are giving up on electric cars. They're all going back to gasoline. Don't you believe it? Ain't happening.
No, they're going back to horse and buggy. I've seen people opening up horseshoeing shops, and the farriers are making a comeback. We're going to have to open that up in the trade schools.
Leather and leather working now to make make harnesses, and got to bring all that back. Who's going to pick up the poop though? That's where we need the illegal immigrants to come in and pick up all the poop.
No, that's what we're going to use the Tesla robot for.
Okay. We're going to use the robot. Okay.
Yeah, the robot's going to pick up the poop. Yeah. Hey, you can't be calling them illegal immigrants.
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, but it's funny. The EV sales surged after reports of a slowdown. EV sales made up 8% of new car sales last quarter, which was up from 7%. And in the second quarter, it was it was up 11.3%. Sometimes you get people lying in statistics, right? Or you can say statistics a certain way and it makes it sound better or worse. But anyways, this isn't like
the age
got
we
some
live
crazy
in the
bias.
We live in the age of spin.
Yeah. So even though Tesla only has 49.7% of the market share, they have the best-selling car. The Tesla Model Y is the best-selling EV in the United States and the best-selling car on the planet. It's not number.
I was going to ask, what is the market share of just cars in general, of General Motors, Toyota? All those guys are down in the low double digits, maybe 15, 20% market share against all the other car companies they have to compete against. Eventually that's going to, the market share phenomenon catches up with the industry. So
the second best selling EV in the United States was the Tesla Model 3. So they're still, chugging along there. They're still chugging along there.
They got a good product, and that's I have questions about the leadership, but as far as the car, they did a hell of a job, pioneering this industry and getting people excited about electric vehicles, and I'll never hold that against them. They've done a remarkable job. The other companies are finally starting to, catch up to them, and in some cases starting to give them a little serious competition.
The number 3 best-selling car kind of surprised me. It's the Mustang Mach-E. So, which also might explain why I keep seeing so many of them.
You see them around town now. Yeah, I see them now too. Yeah.
But what was interesting is so we had Tesla as number 1, and Hyundai as number 2, and then Ford claimed they took number 2, but in this second quarter it was GM, which I find surprising, because I'm not sure what I'd like to see a breakdown. What's also interesting is in truck sales for EVs, the Cybertruck was number one. It
Number
outsold
one, beat
the
out
Lightning.
Ford F-150. Amazing.
Yes, it is.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyways,
What's to this rumor that Kim Kardashian sliced her finger off with her Cybertruck?
I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, right? I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah,
You know what surprises me is when I think of the Cybertruck and I see how expensive they are. You
yeah.
think of it as being a super luxury vehicle, but then when you really look at the pricing and you compare it to a gas Silverado or an
Oh yeah.
F-150
It's
or a Ram,
shocking.
it's the same
Shocking.
price.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
shocking.
they're all in the same price range. It's like it's nothing. You know, I keep getting ads for the 2024 Hummer EV. Okay, and I get them all the time.
Oh
I'm
wow.
really targeted by GM on the Hummer ads, and those things are 110 to
Oh,
$120,000,
yeah.
and they're the least energy efficient EV. They
Yeah.
barely qualify as being, when we talk about that 2 years it takes for the EV to be greener than a gas
Right.
car.
Right.
I bet the Hummer is probably 5 years or
Yeah.
6 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it is an EV, and you could power your neighborhood in the case of a power outage because it has a 205 kilowatt
Right.
hour battery, which is unreal that it's that large. But it is, what does it get, like 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour, whereas the Teslas get like three and a
Yeah.
half. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's stupid.
Those big knobby tires do it no favors.
No, it looks cool though, but
Yeah.
that's so my last article I've got was from a pretty well-known writer named John McElroy that writes on the car
Oh
industry.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know John. Yeah.
Do you know John? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, his article is "The Tariffs Bought Some Time. Now here's what we've got to do." And he's getting into basically, we have this 100% tariff on China. And
Mhm.
oh, have you seen pictures of people of BYD Shark trucks in the United States with
Yes,
Mexican
yes,
plates?
yes, yeah. It was down. Where was it? Down in Arizona somewhere?
Yeah, yeah,
Scottsdale or something like that?
yeah. So people are buying them that live in Mexico, and then
Right. And
that
then
split
driving them
time
up.
up into the U.S.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of interesting. It doesn't mean
And it's
they're
just
coming into the U.S., but it's just
no, it's just yeah, it's just but it's I mean, it is no Cybertruck. It's just a conventional looking, four pack, what I call a four pack, four
Mhm.
door pickup truck. Nothing unique or special, or probably if you didn't see the big YD on the grill, you'd take it for a Ford or something else. So Tundra, who knows? But
so
yes, I've seen
still.
those.
So here's what Stellantis is doing. They made a partnership with Leap Motors in China, and this
Mm-hmm.
picture is showing a Leap motor,
Mm-hmm.
and he's using them to make cars for Stellantis to sell in global markets. And if tariffs block the way, Stellantis will build Leap motor cars in its own assembly plants in the United States. And it's already doing that at a plant in Poland to avoid the EU tariffs.
Right.
Okay. Stellantis is telling its suppliers they'd better cut prices 35% or their business will be awarded to companies in best cost countries. That's a euphemism for giving business to China, Morocco, Turkey, Algeria, Egypt, and South Africa.
Mm.
Interesting. I didn't know they were doing EV production in some of these countries.
Well,
Interesting. One, two,
Morocco,
three,
I was
four,
aware of. Yeah, Morocco, I was aware
four
of.
African countries.
Yeah.
What?
South
Um,
Africa, yeah, they've been there was a prototype EV that was rolled out there. Wow, 20 years ago now. So they've been sort of there. Um, what was the other Egypt? I wasn't aware of Egypt. There was some EV assembly going on. I thought down in one of the sub-Saharan countries. Come on,
hmm.
Uganda. I think it was Uganda. There was some work going on maybe in Uganda. So
I've told you that I've been approached to see about setting up EV manufacturing in one of the other countries,
right.
which I find, we'll see where that happens. We have to wait for an election to happen in
See how that
Oh, I think
comes
it's
out.
in
Yeah.
October. Yeah, but we are dealing with the front runner in the election because the current leader is retiring. So we'll see where that comes out. But they're interested in investing in EV manufacturing in that country. So it'll be
Okay.
interesting to see
Yeah.
where that play comes out. Anyways, not all of the legacy OEMs can react to what Stellantis is doing. They can't cede a 35% cost advantage to Stellantis. Well, that doesn't mean everybody's going to be able to cut their costs by 35%. I think there's going to be some challenges on trying to make things work. And it's not all the price of labor. I mean, the Chinese have figured out how to simply manufacture cheaper, but a lot of it is they're just kind of ahead of the curve. So Tesla's figured out things here in the United States that the other car makers are behind on. And so they're able to make cars at scale on, certain types of chassis, and they're making most of their vertical integration, meaning
Right.
they don't have as many suppliers perhaps
Right.
as some of these other companies. And so that's an issue too, in that a lot of the big three are so dependent on so many suppliers for absolutely everything, as opposed to making it themselves, that is a part of
Right.
the difference in why
Figuring
Tesla's
out the
able to
costing. Yeah.
manufacture.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Um,
the other thing that Stellantis is engaged in, they're putting
what's that?
money into a company building vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, the
Oh, I heard
eVTOLs.
that.
Yeah.
Aren't they into Archer?
Yeah, I think it's Archer. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they're into a number of things. I like to think that our, you know, there's some good leadership in our three big auto manufacturing companies, even though Tesla's is pretty much, getting up
Grab
to
the
being as big as they are.
grab the headlines. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to see Ford, GM, and Stellantis go out of business.
Oh no.
That's one of my concerns. So it's nice seeing them doing some smart things, but a lot of it is, can they be competitive? I sometimes wonder about in the luxury space. So like BYD is trying to enter the luxury space. So let's say you're a brand like Porsche and you switch all your cars to EVs because they're, for whatever reasons. I mean, they can certainly make them fast and they can still make them luxurious. It's still Porsche. I mean,
Right.
do they maintain in this new era? Do they maintain, their competitive advantage? Because, people want to buy Porsche, it's got a name,
Got a
you know.
name. Yep.
Yeah, and it's hard to fathom. If anything else, it's probably going to make a lot of the German car manufacturers more reliable. So, it used to be the German cars. This was like 40 years ago. I mean, there was I forget what that Mercedes was that was built in the 80s. That it was considered to be one of the most reliable cars ever built.
Yeah.
And
And then something happened, and their reliability has been for
not
the
the same.
last
Well,
no, not the
it,
same.
and one of the things is the Japanese raised the bar on reliability.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So the Japanese really did that. Well, now the Chinese are doing this in
Mm-hmm.
the EV space,
Yep.
and Tesla is doing this in the EV space. And you're starting to see cars that are being made that aren't designed to run. So the average gas car, is driven 12 years or 200,000 miles.
Yep.
Now, there's a reason for that. It doesn't, sometimes they get totaled out in accidents, whatever reason, but the cars have no real value anymore at a certain point. And you see in heavier vehicles, like in pickup trucks and Suburbans and Tahoes, you'll see one still running around from the 90s or older than that.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And where people keep fixing them because that chassis is worth so much money that you don't have to junk it. It's worth putting
Right.
another
And it's
engine in
not
there.
as those vehicles aren't as prone to design obsolescence. You know what I mean? In other words,
Right.
there's sort of a fashion, that we go through, I don't know, every 10 years or something like that, where we go from what did they call that? Sort of the bubble look of the old Fords, and at some point before that, they were more sort of very angular, and we're kind of drifting back towards the more angularity, and this. So, but pickup trucks, they the only thing they do is they get bigger looking and more beefy, right?
Right.
Um, the old Chevrolet, S10 that my grandfather had, right? Two,
Mhm.
a bench seat across for grandma, her, and some groceries. Was that way until what? Until we started getting into where the military and the lumber industry and others needed to carry, our utility industry need to carry more than 3 people in the front of a pickup truck. So they said, let's put some seats in the back. When did that happen? Right around the 2000s, something like that. And of course, that has now become a family vehicle. So we go through these phases, but in the cars just, you look at that and says, God, why did I buy that 1990 car? That looks so ugly. But back when you bought it, that was really a good looking car. So I think there's that sort of design ethic that we fashion. Maybe that's the best way to describe it, the fashion that cars go through.
Well, anyways, Bill, that's all I had for us to cover
Okay,
today.
well, that's plenty. We've probably bored people enough now. Hopefully entertained the people that have been able to tune in. We'll try to fix the Twitter, the X thing, whatever their
Yeah.
problem is, and we'll go from there.
All right, great. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut